and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my reading wrap up of February and I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting, so I'm going to be ranking the books that I've read from worst to best. Now I only read 5. That is very a slow reading month for me. I was on placement and I feel like one of these books just put me in a slump, so the end of the month I just hardly read, and I'm going to blame it on that one, but we're going to talk about that extremely soon. If you're new here, my name is Sophie and I post weekly bookish content here on YouTube, so please stick around if that's what you enjoy, because we have a lot of fun. We review books, always spoiler free, so don't worry about that. And without further ado, let's just get into it. So these are the 5 books, so let's start with the worst of the month. We're gonna get the bad out of the way, and normally I wouldn't say books are bad, but this one to me was, and I'm so sad about it because I'd heard so many good things and it's just, did I read it? One second. Yes, I was right, so I read 6 books, not 5, slay the day. But back to it. The book that is going in 6th place for my February reads is going to be Night Circus by Erin Morgenstein. Now you're probably thinking you may have read this and loved it, but I did not. I read this as part of my book club choice with one of my best friends, Liv, and we just both struggled to get through the whole thing. If I'm being honest, I will say, like, when I had like 100 pages to go, I was skim reading a few pages just to get to the end and see if it made sense. How will I describe this book? It's basically following this thing called The Challenge. There are 2 almost like illusionists. They're almost like wizards as well. I'm not really sure, you see. And they get put up against each other at a super young age. They have no idea who they are and they just know that their paths will cross at some point and the challenge will begin. And I just felt myself lost. Like, I really wanted to love it. Like, I felt like the writing and the prose was really beautiful. The story was just not engaging for me. Like, at one point there was like a romance in this and I was like, oh, where's this come from? Because I have felt no tension at all. Please comment if you have read this, because I think maybe it was lost, it was over my head. Maybe I'm used to more like fluffy duffy romantasy and this was just a little bit too much of a step forward for me. But maybe I'll reread in a few years, or maybe I'll just get rid of this book, because let's face it, I have seen a few people on Book Talk saying they did enjoy it, so maybe this genre is just not for us. But that is why The Night Circus is coming in at 6th place. Comment if you feel differently. And then in 5th place, we have Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. So this is the first book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series by Rick Riordan. And I like this book a lot. Like, it's in 5th place, but that's because there is other books that I really, really enjoyed this last month. So this follows Percy. He's 12 years old. He's always struggled in school, like with dyslexia and behavioural problems. And he finds himself one day, things are chasing him, like these things that you would only hear about in stories and myths. They're chasing him, they're trying to kill him. So he's like, why? What the hell is going on? And it turns out that he learns that he is the son of Poseidon. So he has to go to this camp called Camp Half-Blood, and that is where our journey begins. He is basically being accused of having stolen Zeus's lightning bolt. So he has to go on this huge mission with his 2 friends, and they're basically trying to find the bowl. They're trying to prove the Olympus gods wrong. And it was a fun story, and I will say it's so different to the books. I ended up giving this one a 3.5 stars. I didn't mention it, but this probably 1 star. It doesn't need a rating because I didn't like it at all. But yeah, 3.5 stars, and that is like a good rating for me. This one just felt a little bit too YA, and I also think because of the fact that I had already seen this movie, I knew the ending, and maybe that kind of ruined it for me, but I haven't. Obviously the rest of the series I'm excited to get to because I don't know anything about it or what the books entail. So it is enjoyable. I definitely more YA than the other books that I've been reading currently. I think it just gave that kind of feel. Like in these as well, like they're set up so differently from the movies. I feel like the movies have been almost catered to a slightly older audience to appeal, but like the plot scenes with all the monsters in this, they were all just like so different. But I think that was a good fresh a breath of fresh air. And yeah, I do recommend picking up this series. It's very nostalgic for me because I watched this movie so much growing up. But this is why Percy is in 5th place, and I think it was just beaten out by a lot better books, if I'm being honest. Moving on to our 4th place book of February. This is going to be Cinder by Marissa Meyer, and this is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles series. Now this is actually a reread for me. I read this when I was like 15, 16, back in the day. I'm 25 now, and it's still here. There was obviously some bits that I remembered and some that I didn't. But if you're looking for a fantasy, a YA fantasy, I will express, like, if you don't like YA, don't pick it up. But if you do, then definitely please put it on your TBR. But this follows Cinder. So these are all kind of Disney retellings and like a sci-fi feel. So Cinder is half human, half cyborg. She's not sure where she is from. She lives in a place called New Beijing. So it kind of follows like that Asian kind of feel, as if we are in China but in the future in a way, and it's so good, so entertaining. I loved all the characters. It's like emotional at some points as well, and Marissa Meyer just did an amazing job of describing the landscape so you feel like you're there but not going into too much that it's almost overwhelming. And we follow Cinder on this quest because she is trying to uncover kind of secrets of her past and of her world as well. But at the beginning of this book, she randomly bumps into Prince Kai because he has come into her mechanic shop to fix his android, like robot type device. And that's when they first meet, and I adore him. Everyone's like, Kai Azza, but no, Kai from Cinder. Give him the respect he deserves. He's a cutie pie, and yeah, he is just lovely. He is soon to be emperor of the continent, so there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And when he first meets her, actually he isn't aware that she is cyborg because she has like gloves on, so she is trying to hide that from him as well. I just feel like this book has a lot of aspects in it that were just so entertaining, and it really did keep me gripped. I'm really excited for the rest of the series because they kind of all follow like a Disney princess in a way, but I will say these feel nothing like those original stories, just kind of like a little emphasis on certain moments within them. I ended up giving Cinder a 4.25 stars. I think the first time I read it, it was a 5, but I feel like at that age, it was the first time I'd read it. Maybe a reread would never be a 5-star again because you kind of, you know those bits that have happened. So 4th place, very good. Beaten out by 3 very good books, I will say. Okay, so 1st, 2nd and 3rd are all from the same series, and are we going to be shocked? Are we going to be shocked? It is the first 3 books in the Keeper of the Lost City series, and I actually have no idea with the order. I think I'm going to talk about them as a whole, but let's rank them individually. I think 3rd place we are going with Book 2, which is Exile. 2nd place, drum roll please, Book 3. So this one is called Everblaze. So obviously our winner of the month is the original story, Keeper of the Lost Cities, Book 1. I just don't think I can stress enough how much I'm adoring this series and the characters. This series is by Shannon Messenger as well, by the way, and I feel like in the book talk universe, I had not heard of this, but here on YouTube Shorts, a lot of you guys are raving about these books and being like it's the best series ever. So I'm trying my best now to get it onto book talk and get people reading it because it's so good. Once again, YA. I feel like it doesn't feel as YA, like it doesn't feel like I'm reading children's books, if that makes sense. It kind of gives that same kind of age feel as if you were to read Harry Potter. Obviously at the time it was written for 12 to 14-year-olds, that's just a guess, but obviously people grew up reading them and probably still read them into their later lives as well, just because of how iconic they are. And I feel like this series has the potential to do that, but it's just not hyped enough. And that's all I'm going to say. So for me to encourage you to read this, let's talk about the first book. Obviously I don't want to give anything away with the series, but we are following Sophie Foster. So she lives in the human world and she's had this power since she was 5 years old that she could listen to thoughts. So she is a telepath. And then one day she bumps into a boy named Fitz and she's not able to read his mind. Crazy, right? So she's lived this life where her family don't know. She's kind of just struggled internally and dealt with it on her own. She is a badass, I will say that. She takes things in her stride, and I'm like, you go girl. Fitz basically informs her that she's actually an elf and it comes from the elf realm. So he kind of takes her there. She has to leave behind her human life. Like, they even make her human family like forget who she is, so they don't have to deal with like the loss of potentially faking her death to get her out of there. She then goes to this elf realm and is needing to enroll in their like magical elf school. So it's definitely giving that hole that Harry Potter left in our hearts, and it's just so good. Like, I really enjoy probably less of the action and more of seeing our main characters go to class and deal with assignments. Like, it just feels really real, and there's terms in this book that are just so cool. Like, obviously we have the saying like put your thinking cap on, but in this, like, they actually have caps that they put on and it stops telepaths being able to cheat during exams. Like, I just feel like Shannon thought of everything, and it is really entertaining. We also have like a darker kind of feel, similar to like Voldemort in Harry Potter, this group called the Black Swan, and I'm gonna let you guys read this because I don't want to talk too much about that, but it's kind of like this uprising that's coming up through the elf world, and Sophie is very much interconnected within it, but I'm not gonna say why, you gotta go read. But that definitely, I can't remember what I rated these. I know this one was definitely a 5-star, and then I believe the third book, I'm just gonna rate it 4.5, and then this one is going to be 4.25 as well. I do find sometimes, like, when I really love a first book of a series, it's like, how can any of the others live up to it? But I've literally got like 5 more books left with this one, and I think the 9th book is coming out soon. So if you're also looking for a series that is gonna keep you gripped for a lot of books and you get a lot of stories and connections to the characters, then pick this one up. Let me know if you have read it as well, because I need people to talk to this about, because I've got no one. I will say as well, like, my favourite character is definitely Keith. I feel like he comes across as like a bully type in the first book, but we slowly are unpeeling his layers and we're getting to know him, and he's also like, him and Sophie spent a lot of time together in the 2nd and 3rd book, so I feel like we see a lot more of his humour coming out, and I feel he's just like the perfect side character for her. Like, I did really like Dex in the beginning, but he's now quite annoying. You know those friends that just like cling on and like are obsessed with you? He is one of them, and it's just like, it gives me the ick a little bit. And concerning Fitz, like, I thought I was going to be obsessed with him, but I just don't know. I'm just not right now. Maybe I will as this series grows on, but I'm definitely more of a Keith girl than a Fitz. But that is my little rundown of the first 3 books of the Keeper of the Lost City series. Once again, put it on your TBR. I honestly think you can get all 8 books for like under £30 on Amazon as well. It's so good. So there we have it. That was a quick little wrap up. I really enjoyed doing it in this way of like worst to best, because I feel like it really gauges kind of how much I like the book as well. So if you guys do like this kind of format, please let me know, because sometimes it's just a little bit boring for me to sit here and talk about the books that I read. I feel like when I add like a little bit of a different element, it just makes it a little bit more fun to film and for you guys to watch as well. But if you're still here, please comment one of these books that catches your fancy, or if you've read one of them, let me know. And don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you want to see my face again. As I'm filming this, I am 3 subscribers away from 2,000. Crazy, right? And maybe by the time this goes up, I would have hit it. So if I have, thank you, and if not, subscribe to stick around and join the bookish family. And I shall see you in the next one.